So, welcome to a Travel Tuesday. This is the masterclass where we go into becoming and activating your higher ego identity. What this really is your self, your meta self. We're all, there's this phrase, you're not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. And I have always felt the truth of that. So at the time that I felt nudged and pulled to a certain self, for me, that really came through as travel, whatever that meant. And I, at the time that I have this nudge, I didn't necessarily know what to do with it, right? This is essentially a higher ego self that you might not actually be able to logically understand as your human self, right? It's might not go against, it might not go along with your current beliefs about yourselves, your current identity, who you are to other people, what your role currently is, or even what you believe is actually consciously something of interest. Higher ego is beyond your human mind and the external circumstances. And this is really where that spiritual alignment comes into play, because it's less about trying to be someone as allowing who you already are to come through. So it's like that philosophy, was it Michelangelo or some artist who said that when they are creating a sculpture, it's not that they are creating a sculpture, it's that they are chiseling away anything that is not the sculpture. So it's like this perspective that it's already within you. The divine masterpiece is already there within you. But the question is it coming through clearly? Or are there some blocks and pieces that you need to chip away and allow to unveil what is actually beneath that, right? So essentially, the divine assignment and alignment is the idea that who you are called to be is already a part of your soul path. It's already who you are innately, intrinsically. It's showed up, possibly even before you were born. You choose your life circumstances. You choose who you're going to be born to. You choose where, how, where, what, when, why, as part of your soul mission for whatever you came on this planet and earth to do at this time. And obviously, this sounds very like in the ethers. Like, what does this actually mean in the tangible, the practical, everyday life that you can touch and feel and see? But really, this is where you might actually not be in alignment with that higher energy because you're looking so much to the evidence around you rather than holding true to that inner knowing. And as Albert Einstein says, intuition is the master and the logical mind is the servant. So it's like allowing your intuition to lead is where you are in direct connection with your divine self. And what if you were to let that come through? And then your actions then are all about allowing that to come through even more clearly and become the masterpiece of your own life, essentially. So when I was 17, I went to university right after high school. And it was this sense that, well, it's just the thing you do after high school. And what else am I going to do? I was thinking, obviously, most people you are thinking about an occupation after high school. And moving on from the very structured atmosphere of school to this open-ended of like, okay, now I get to choose. What would you choose? And there's so many different options. And do you go to university? And what program do you want to take? And what's your ultimate goal? And what's your what's your vision for where, who, and what, and this and this and that. And at 17, this was not necessarily very clearly defined for me. I wasn't really necessarily in touch with that higher self, with that divine assignment, if you will. So although I've had nudges and intuitive pieces come through, like, this is who I am and this is what I know and believe to be true, it wasn't necessarily a very core piece of my identity, nor was it like the guiding star, the guiding compass of the decisions in my life at the time. So I go through university and I never quite feel right there. And in fact, on the orientation day, I have a very clear voice, like a nudge, a whisper, tell me go travel. And this is like almost like a direct connection with the divine, because one of those intuitive downloads and channels that doesn't come from like a thought process per se. It's like a spontaneous, like just knowing. It's like a whisper. It's like a whisper from your soul, from the 5D, if you will. And I complete university, but I never feel quite in my element. I never quite feel like I'm doing what I'm meant to do. So I'm feeling quite restless. And I go through what I now have as the holistic wealth sequence. So the holistic wealth sequence is the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, and the financial pieces that make up the whole wealth system. And it's this sequence that are the main pillars and supports that create your identity piece. Your identity piece is your guiding light. It's like that piece that is chosen prior. It's your divine assignment. It's who you came here to be long before you actually showed up. So that piece is like the North Star, the guiding soul nudges. And in concert with deliberately and intentionally, but also consciously up-leveling these pieces of the holistic wealth pillars is what moves worlds. It's what creates that synchronicity and the synergy that aligns all the forces to be in congruence with your higher purpose. And this is what actually happened for me. When I had this higher soul calling, go travel, whatever that meant, you know, it was like this expansion of seeing myself more on a global scale, not necessarily just being in one place, not attached to one location or one occupation or one particular identity or path or whatnot, allowing myself to expand in more multifaceted ways. And it started with that through a portal, like the channel of the voice that came through that was go travel. You know, it was just a very simple, clean line. It didn't have to show me the whole pathway. It's almost like it's already nudging me to the part of myself that already knows, you know, the part, like the meta part of you that can see all around. It's like the omnipresent part. Like, how many of us actually feel very, very more than just our human selves, right? More than just what we see on the surface. It's like we feel so much bigger than we actually are, even if we don't necessarily know how to define that in words or tangibly explain it. So at the time that I graduate, you know, I'm not my soul is not calling me to fit into a particular occupation, a particular box, or to, you know, settle down in particular this and this and that. So I'm getting this longing, and I become like almost like this seeker in the world, and, you know, reading different materials and seeking different events and teachings and whatnot. And at some point I go into like, well, the first thing I do upon graduating university is I enroll in psychotherapy, and I get my emotional self in order, in a sense. Like, I get my emotional wealth to a place that I now have a voice to speak my inner truths. And what this gives me is a level of autonomy and self-narration, like speaking my story and my perspectives and my feelings as it is pertinent to me that only I can tell in the way I can tell is not really something that I ever did throughout school. Most of it is like your very, subjects and stuff. It's not necessarily you speaking about your emotions and excavating that, and even like learning to tune in, like, and even processing some traumas or whatnot. So emotional wealth was the first pillar that I built right after university. And then I moved into spiritual wealth. So this is me seeking now more enlightenment. And at some point, I hear about Vipassana, and it immediately, like, something about it lights up for me. And I'm like, what is Vipassana? And I sign up for a 10-day retreat that is like in Quebec, so a few provinces east. And I go on that journey and I do the 10-day retreat. And the first 3 days, like, it was like an acclamation, and I stuck it through and I completed the 10 days. And when I came back, it's like I was not the same person. Everything I had processed emotionally and now spiritually was stacking up. So I now have the emotional wealth pillar and now the spiritual wealth. At this point, I'm also from a bit of that adventure and going somewhere on my own. That was like one of my first major trips, like just solo, to a different province. And it was like a 2-week thing where I went for 10 days to the retreat, and I have a couple days before and after where I just kind of wandered on my own. And so that was really one of my first major solo travel, if you will, or adventures, just on my own. And what happened from that is that as much as deep as I went within, and even to a heightened newfound sense of like stillness and awareness, I also now was getting a call to explore more, to like expand more. So even just being more fully expressed, like I found my joy levels rising, and even my enthusiasm and desire to be out and about in the world and creating, and in a state of more autonomy. Right now I felt like I was more of my own person. I had made choices that were more aligned with who I was. I went on this Vipassana retreat. I went on this solo travel, and I chose this particular destination when there's Vipassana in many different locations, but I thought I chose the one in Quebec because it was like outside of what felt easy or convenient. I didn't just choose the most convenient or easy answer. I chose the one that was pulling me towards it. So now my decisions, and even the decision to go into psychotherapy after university, that was all my own. So now I'm making decisions that are not necessarily for anyone else. They're not to get something out of it. It's more just moving from a place of intrinsic desire, and this is what feels right for me, and so on. So essentially, I gain a lot. This is around the time that I start, I have my driver's license. So I'm driving around a lot more on my own. I'm biking around a lot more on my own. I'm no longer in university. So I'm choosing activities and experiences that I choose from my own, what I feel naturally drawn to and naturally interested in, right? I'm not necessarily moving because of a syllabus or what's already, laid out for me. So my confidence and my sense of self-leadership and independence is expanding, and I become more fit. I start choosing also the products. I refine that. I become more selective, not just products that I'm using, but foods that I'm eating, the activities. Like I'm less inclined to just watch TV now. I'm more going out and about and going for rides on my bicycle, out in nature, not just almost like being a couch potato or whatever easier habits had been for me in prior times. So as this, so at this point now, there's the physical wealth, there's the financial, or there's the spiritual wealth, and there's the emotional wealth. And these three pillars then create this almost like expansion, because when you feel good about yourself, when you trust yourself more, when you're moving more in alignment with who you really are, there is an energetic shift and expansion in your way of being and just who you naturally are. And that will lead you to be like just show up in different ways. And even to your field of awareness expands. So, I would start moving things around into my physical space. Like I would, it's like I've outgrown these items, or you know what, I'm gonna get something that feels better for me. I'm no longer going to buy this type of product. Instead, I'm going for this one or something. Or you know what, I'm not wearing any of these clothes. I'm going to get these ones instead. Things of that nature where it's like, it's all in alignment with that emotional honesty, this alignment with a higher self, that inner silence and stillness, right? And then the physical capacity where now it's like my energy, like my physical energy is more towards health and fitness and what actually feels good for your body and actually is good for your body, right? So energetically, this newfound upgrade in all wealth pillars infiltrates into the physical environment naturally. And, I remember one of the financial things like a financial abundance coming in and just that more ease and flow and like life just moving easier is when I found like a check, I guess. In university, I had gotten like some scholarship or I got something that I think I had it was like $1,000 reward or something. I had like a check from like way back when I was still in university, and it was just like in the bottom of like a drawer or something. And then I cashed it in despite it being a few years now, and it worked. And it was like, oh my goodness, how was that check there just the entire time? And other like things of that nature, right? Where something that was previously not in your field of awareness now shows up. So I am essentially in a state where I feel like more is possible. Like I'm not so tunnel visioned, right? Where I'm just thinking there's a very linear path and I must do this, this, this to get there. It's like I'm not even necessarily focused on like things that in a prior time I was thinking, oh, I must, you know, I must like these occupations or these educational paths are like the only way. Suddenly, like my field of awareness is expanding. I'm like, you know what? I love going for bike rides. And this is what I enjoy doing right now. And, so what if I don't necessarily know what career I want to do for the rest of my life? So what if I don't feel like I studied the right thing when I was in university? So what? It's like I stopped making these things the focus. And I really went into that idea of like, there is so much more than just those pieces, right? And I leaned in more to that, what felt good. So those wealth pillars, the emotional wealth, the spiritual wealth, the physical wealth, because these are all wealth that contributes to your life and actually to the financial piece as well. It's not just about how does this directly relate to what career I have or how much money I make or how my life unfolds for the rest of it. It really starts with the identity piece and the wealth pillars that solidify, okay, this is who I am. And these are the actions that I take in alignment, in truth, and in the energetic congruency of who I know myself to be. So at this time, if you look from 17 to now, I'm like in my mid 20s. And I've now chosen a lot of things that are my own. Vipassana was my own. Going to Quebec was my own. Going to psychotherapy was my own. Now being more drawn to bicycle rides and choosing to clear up some of the clutter that I've been holding on since my university years and moving that energy around. Suddenly and like the things I'm choosing now, like the clothes I'm wearing, the products I use, the foods I eat, they're becoming each piece more and more my own and who I am building as a whole. So it's like my portfolio, my dossier, my character attributes, essentially. It's like lining up to who it is. And now I have like this North Star where it's like, Serefair Castle, it's almost like this higher ego identity. So for me, it's like, okay, well, what's my name? Because Sarah feels very attached to who I've already been and all of that. And I was like seeking to transcend it, to get out of the ordinary. So besides all of these different attributes, like the foods I eat, the activities I do, the places I go, whatnot, I was like, my name itself, like the whole energetic piece of that also needs an upgrade. So I started like seeing myself more as this game character, Serefair Castle, and just had a ring to it that felt lighter and felt more in congruence with all the other attributes. I'm like, I started eating a lot of less meat. And this isn't about like becoming vegetarian or vegan or whatnot. It's more about like that alignment with what you feel drawn to. And even the Vipassana led me to become a little bit more vegetarian. So Serefair Castle felt like this embodiment of all of these new choices and decisions that were in alignment with me and that built up those wealth pillars. And when all of this kind of lines up, almost like the chakra system, if you're familiar with that, something really does magical happens, like a energetic alignment, because this is like you become like a clear signal in the energetic world. There's that divine assignment, who you came here to be, the carving, the masterpiece that is already there. You're just removing all the pieces that are not it. So as you're uncovering the masterpiece within, lo and behold, the masterpiece becomes clearer. So I get the call again, and this time it's telling me go to Toronto. So now, because I have everything more lined up and more clear, I'm like, well, yeah, I can go to Toronto. It still feels like unknown. It still feels like I don't really know what's happening after that. Like, should I go? Should I not? So there's still a bit of like the humanness where you're like, what? But because I'm more aligned and attuned with that higher ego identity, Serefair Castle, and I've got all these like I've got like a resume essentially now of all the things I've done that are in alignment with that. And it's become my more predominant nature now to lead myself, to choose for myself that inner sovereignty and autonomy. So it feels a lot more incongruence. And I'm able to actually, it doesn't feel as big of a leap now as it did when I heard the voice at 17, because a lot of those pieces were not necessarily there yet. And whether I had just not gone to university and I started building those wealth pillars instead during those years, as I started doing pretty much at the time I got out of university, I do believe that is what would have happened, that I just say no to university. I dedicate it to investing in myself, to my own, what I feel called to, and my wealth pillars. I 100% actually believe that that would have been my self-education and self-leadership that would lead me on my own path rather than going down the route of university, because that is essentially what happened after I got out of university. I went down that path of self-leadership and building those wealth pillars. So even though the call came, it just means that it's like that point that you're moving towards. And then there might be like side quests that you kind of go on before actually fully embodying that piece, right? So that aside, I'm now 27 and I get the same call again. And it's like similar along the lines of go travel, except this time it's like go to Vancouver. And I'm living in Vancouver, BC at the time. So I don't have a logical reason to go there. I don't even quite honestly want to go there. In my head, I'm like, well, I like Vancouver, BC. I'd rather be here than Toronto. So why would I go there? But the call is very strong in the sense that it was a recurring nudge. It was a whisper, it was a quiet voice, but it was very strong in me because I knew what I carried for the previous 10 years, what I felt I had left undone for all those years. And now it was like this redemption, right? It was like this, well, here's your chance again. Here's your opportunity to do the thing that you did not do all those years ago. And so it was almost like this challenge. It was like this dare. It was like this is bigger than just the act itself. This is like a soul reclamation. This is also an option to get onto your soul path. So I went on that journey and I got on that train ride. And that too then was another decision in the now long list of things that was choosing myself over and over and over again. And this time it felt a little bit more significant because obviously I had packed up my life and actually went on a one-way journey. So it wasn't just like I went for like a 2-week trip, or, I went into group psychotherapy or something like that. It was like, I just packed up my life in this trust and this belief in this new identity that was more predominantly who I was being now since my prior university and all that. So this is really what led to the unfolding. And when you're suddenly synced up with that energetic state, it's like you're in the current, you're in the flow. So one thing led to another, and I'm just like, I'm like there, I'm in it, I'm showing up for myself. I'm on the one-way train, and then it leads to the one-way plane, and then I'm in Spain, and then I go on a one-way ferry, and then I'm in Morocco. And all of these moments, it wasn't even about the travel, it wasn't even about the sightseeing, but it unlocked something in me. And life also was interwoven into the journey. I got to go on all these magical adventures and all these experiences that I didn't necessarily consciously know I wanted, but when they arrived, it was like this feeling of awe and like being gifted, or like blessings, right? Like your divine assignment, being who you are called to be on this planet, just there in front of me, right? And it felt like I was just going with the flow because I was not making anything happen. I was not planning, researching, creating itinerary. I was very much tuning in to an inner feeling, an inner call, a soul calling, right? It's that alignment with your higher power and your higher self. So this is really the identity activation that led me to the world travels. A lot of times, how many people can relate to, I want to go traveling more. I want to do more of this. I want to do that. And it's so like, it's like this, how do you do that then? How do you just make yourself go and do it? If you're dreaming of it, you have it in your thought process, it's somewhere in your field, but yet the physical is not connecting with the energetic reality where that would actually just become a possibility, where you just connect with that, right? And this is what essentially the divine quest is all about. It's that higher ego activation and the holistic wealth sequence, this particular combination that allows your physical to catch up with the metaphysical, if you will, to catch up with the energetic piece, because you have these thoughts, you have these nudges, you have the version of yourself that is already doing the thing, but you haven't necessarily become the human in the physical realm who necessarily just that becomes a match for, and suddenly you're just on it. Suddenly you're just in the flow, you're in the current, you're not even necessarily having to try or force or do anything in particular, because it's just a part of you now. Do you see like that identity shift that I underwent that led to me becoming like a person who took more aligned actions, who made more autonomous choices, who was creating this masterpiece from who I already was from within, allowing that to come through, the surrender, the alignment and connection with the divine. Which is why I say you're a spiritual being in a human body, not a human being having a spiritual experience, because it's like the piece of Michelangelo saying he's not carving the sculpture, he's taking away everything that is not the sculpture. It's like that flipping the script and being like, it's not something that you do or that you are, it's something you already innately have within you. I think that's the piece that a lot of us feel, that you already feel that call, you already have that knowingness, that you already sense that fuller than the physical aspect of yourself. And it's almost just channeling the particular pieces that make that so much stronger within you, like that being the signal, like making that signal very, very clear, like as if you were a particular frequency. It's like, that's what it is. That's the energetic piece, right? Where you're getting into a certain vibrational attunement with who you already are instead of who you're currently being. And there might just be like little tweaks or whatnot, but there is a vibrational difference if you sense that there's something outside of your current field of awareness and reality that is not quite matching who you know yourself to be. So that is where the divine quest comes in, where we go through this holistic wealth sequence, the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, and the financial piece that is the energetic expansion and the upgrade of your wealth pillars that supports the new identity and the identity that is built by those actions and those tangible embodiments of that higher vision. And in that transformation, it's like things sync up very quickly. It does not have to take long, which is why the Divine Quest is actually 12 weeks. It is a 12-week intensive program that leads you through pretty much, I could condense my whole journey. Like the steepest learning curve of it really happened at the point that I synced up and became who I then went on the journey to become. I really could have condensed that into like a 3-month, 12-week journey of just doing the things consistently and doing the right things consistently. It did not have to take a decade. It did not have to like be this long drawn out process that led me to eventually take the one-way train ride. And even once I became the world traveler, the identity shift was swift. So within the first 3 months after taking that train ride, I already felt embodied as the world traveler. Even though it's been a decade now and I've since been to like 60 countries solo, many on repeat, just as a lifestyle, like months at a time, whatnot. Like it's not about the number of countries, right? It was really that first 3-month period that was like the whoop, like this steepest learning curve. And then since that, like just coasting, right? It's like the decade, whatever. That is not even where the story is. Okay. Yes, I've had a lot of moments and this and that experiences. I'm a decade now of it. But the steepest learning curve was that first 3 months that I had already taken the one-way train ride. And then I was in Spain and then Morocco. That first 3 months holds like, is like a treasure in my heart because that was where I truly stepped into my world traveler identity. And when I came back to Canada in like July 2017, which was like 17 months after departing in like January 2016, I was obviously not the same person anymore. My perspectives changed. My way of showing up was different. My confidence in myself, like just so many different pieces, the vast array of it. That was really embodied within the first 3 months, which is why the 12 weeks is so significant, because also in the journey leading up to the yes that led to the one-way train ride, all of that could be condensed. It was not something that necessarily needed to take that long of a process or time when you are taking consistent directed action towards who you are becoming. And the Divine Quest is a very targeted, clear directive where we're not focusing on the vibes. It's not a mindset course. It is not just intuitive work. It is legitimately a sequence of events that occurs that gets you in alignment with your highest self and activating that higher identity and the pillars that support that, the actual action pieces. As I was saying, the dossier, like the character attributes, as if you're building out your character through your actions, your life choices. So in the Divine Quest, the Divine Quest is where, the bigger picture of the Divine Quest is that you become who you are actually called to be. Like, what else is there for you to do? It is to become who you are meant to be. And this is the initiation to that process, because this is a lifetime journey. This is a lifetime journey. This is like the booster pack. This is like the initiation process to get you into that like upward spike, right? That spike where, instead of just like this plateau where, yeah, okay, maybe you do like these little things and you kind of stop and then you like, this isn't really going to get you anywhere. Okay. This is not really, yes, you might do like this thing where you're doing this, but what you really want is that like upward spike that gets you to take the leap, the momentum shift. And for me, how that almost like the decade of like whatever accumulated and who I became as a result of that, over time, yes, it did create this like sudden spike where suddenly is like going on this world travel adventure, that was the new embodied identity. And that occurred from all those micro shifts that occurred over such like a 10-year period, essentially. And now kind of synced up, like that frequency just lining up, getting in sync. And my identity took on a new turn. And I really locked in. I'm like, I'm a world traveler. I'm literally a world traveler now. Whereas if I had not said yes to that train ride, if I had just continued going on with all the things and whatnot, that spike would not have happened. And it was because of all those pillars in place that it supported my ability to take on, to say that yes and go on that call to adventure and have that like steep learning curve that just kind of like catapulted me into this new frequency and wave of being an identity that changes essentially the trajectory of my life. It's like my life is now like on this new plateau that, you know, until there's an inflection point and then maybe there's a new boost and a new rise into a new identity that then takes clearer shape and form, there is a certain kind of just coasting where maybe you're doing things however stacked your momentum and speed that you're going is, you know. So what the Divine Quest is collapsing this time frequency, because we value our time, and chances are you're the type of person who wants to just implement, who wants to just go for it. And this is where the Divine Quest stacks it all for you. It's a very structured program where you get the habits and the actions that actually strengthen the pillars that are going to support your new identity. This is what creates the opportunity for that leap, the inflection point that takes you to the new trajectory of your life. And that is when you open up to more. And the possibilities are endless. Who you are called to be here on the earth is the magic. It's the reward for this journey of going on the Divine Quest. So it is 12-week journey, and there are 3 calls per week. Is an activation, upgrade, and execution. You know, you are showing up for you. This is a conservatory. This is the first pathway in the Serefair Conservatory. So it is a school for those essentially, you're entering as a peer amongst visionaries, creators, founders, innovators, and world shapers, okay? This is the level that you see yourself at. You see yourself at this very high level. This is the identity activation. And you will be rigorously held to a certain standard. You know, you participate. You are not just a passive participant. You carry your own weight because you are the source of your own greatness. And the conservatory pathway is there to put you in a environment and an inoculated experience that collapses that time frame for you to get those results, to go have that inflection point where your alignment happens in a much speedier way, and also a very grounded and solid way that supports the inflection point to a new plateau, so to speak. It gets you to a new level overall. And in the consistent application of the habits and the practices and the actions that the conservatory pathway, the Divine Quest, takes you on, the journey that you embark on, this is the transformation in who you essentially become. So this is the first round is starting in February 1st, 2026. So there's a bit of a runway from now until then. And this is the first ever cohort that will run through this program. And there will be a founding member designation for the first 100 members. The first 100 students who go through this program will be the only 100 that will ever hold the label of founding member. The first 100. And beyond just the curriculum of the 12-week Divine Quest journey that everyone will go on, You get 3 calls per week. This is 36 live sessions in the period of a 12-week program. It's very intensive, it's very condensed form to keep that momentum energy up, because it's the consistent building that creates the spike and gets you in that higher state frequency that is aligned with your higher self, right? It's not the tepid, like dabbling type of energy where you're maybe in it, you're kind of not, and then nothing really happens. You're almost like inoculating yourself in this environment for that activation to happen. So we go through the whole wealth sequence and we connect that to the higher ego identity. And this is where the magic happens. And you will get the online curriculum, and there's replays. You'll get the Serefair Conservatory is more than just the divine pathway. So you are essentially it's an initiation into a new standard of sovereignty and destiny and identity. And that's what the Serefair Conservatory really stands for. You are, as a conservatory has standards, you are expected to hold yourself to certain standards. You will act quickly, align, correct any disruptions, adjust your own standards, and enforce the boundaries that are required to get yourself the results based on the curriculum of the divine quest within the Serefair Conservatory. So there is a very real process of being the person who gets the results, right? You're not just a passive student or whatever, just going through the motions, And even more than this, okay? If you are one of the first 100 students, you will get the prestige of being a founding member for life, because there will only ever be 100 founding members ever. This label will never return. It will never be offered again. Every student that goes through the program and enrolls at this Serefair Conservatory gets lifetime alumni status. So you go through the 12-week program, but guess what? You still continue on as an alumni student. You will forever be part of, you will remain in conservatory history forever. This is a legacy thing. This is a long-term vision. The conservatory is not going anywhere. And you will become the first class to ever pass through this ignition as one of the first 100 students to enroll and go through the divine quest. First cohort enrolling for February 1st, 2026. Besides the 12-week program and the initiation to the conservatory and the lifetime alumni status as a member, you will also get ongoing mentorship for a year. Once you have lifetime access to the curriculum and the replays and the 12-week divine quest that you went on with your specific cohort. Each cohort will be capped at 25 students. So if there are 100 students, there will be 4 cohorts. And you will traverse this journey together. So that's part of the adventure. You're not just doing it alone. That you have those who you're going on this journey with, and you lean into them in that community space. And you build and you go on this adventure that you will remember long after, and that you will implement over and over and over again. And you have the continuity after the 12 weeks, you get that ongoing mentorship for 1 year. 1 year of ongoing mentorship. So you can revisit and re-implement and continue to sustain your new plateau. Because once you get your transformation, you're still very held. We are the Serefair Conservatory, the divine quest is there for you for life, for you to go and do over and over and over again. But at that time, you are also held by ongoing mentorship to continue to implement and to navigate anything that comes up from that point. And there will always be new levels that you will want to go to. And the Serefair Conservatory will be coming out with more offers beyond. So besides the lifetime access to the divine quest curriculum replays and the actual live sessions that are happening 3 times per week for 12 weeks to really get you in that almost like that starter, that booster pack period where you're really going for it. You get the full year of mentorship calls, weekly mentorship calls and integration essentially, and a container space to continue to connect with your fellow cohort players, and like a container where you're still deeply connected to this movement. And then say the year is up. Well, guess what? You will remain an alumni for life of the Serefair Conservatory. Like you are just part of the conservatory now, essentially. And if you are one of the first 100 members, you also have the founding member label, like the prestige of that, just the status, like I'm a founding member. There's only ever going to be 100 founding members. It's like being an OG character, essentially, in a game. So for those of you that love that, founding member is where you move now before the new year and get your spot locked in. This is only the beginning. And this takes off on February 1st of 2026. So we are pre-enrolling the first students into the first cohort, the first term that will begin February 1st of 2026. So you have this runway period. It's almost the new year. Many people are thinking of like, who am I going to be in the new year? Or what are the changes I'm going to make? What are my resolutions? And in this period leading up to that, when you you put your stake in the ground and you enroll now to save your spot on the Divine Quest beginning February 1st, you are essentially giving you that built-in North Star, because you're anchoring who you're becoming. You're anchoring this very real and powerful transformation process that you allow yourself to just kind of anchor that in for yourself right now, that by the time January rolls around and you're anticipating this thing, and the conservatory will be in touch with you at points along the way prior to leading up to that. So it's like there's a process that will occur and you will feel received into this conservatory, and like your particular place and seat is reserved for you. So it feels very bespoke, like you are a one of one. You are like a character in this game. You have your particular identity, and who are your fellow players going to be? It's very, very exciting. There's a sense of going on an adventure and being part of something bigger than yourself, while also living your life in a way that you become more of yourself in real life. So you're not just playing a game, you're literally playing the game of your real life. This is the divine quest. It's merging the spiritual with the real world and making that a mission. So the investment for this, everything that I've just included, the 12-week intensive with 3 live coaching calls that you are encouraged to be on and that you are expected to be on, but replays are also available. And there are going to be daily activations and homeworks that you will have to show that you are a participant and an active player in this. There are standards that you will be held to, okay? This is a conservatory. It's not just a coaching container. It's not just a vibes container. It's just not just a mindset program. This is a legitimate conservatory that is holding you to a standard of excellence and accountability. This is the moment in every hero's story where you choose between you choose at the fork in the road between hesitation or the path to becoming who you really are. It's the fork in the road that I faced at 27. It's like, do I stay on the safe path or do I take the one-way train into the unknown? And even as I'm building out the conservatory now, do I just coast in the life that I currently have, achieved or whatnot, the identity I am now, or do I go for the next level? Do I allow Serefair to evolve into the next iteration? And that is the Serefair Conservatory. So of course, yes, I go for it too. I'm still going for it. You always go for it. That is who you choose to be when you say yes to the Divine Quest. The Divine Quest is $10,000 paid in full, one time. This is everything. The 1 year of ongoing mentorship, the 12-week intensive that changes the trajectory of your life, takes you on a journey of real transformation, and you become a different person in that short time. There is an inflection point, and then you are deeply held for the 1 year of mentorship following. This is unheard of, okay? You have alumni status for life within the Serefair Conservatory, and if you are one of the first 100 people to sign up for this ever in the whole lineage and history and whatever that is going to unfold for the school, the conservatory, the Serefair Conservatory, you also get founding member designation. That will not ever happen again. That is a once in a lifetime thing. And is only for the ones who move now and who trust their inner voice, who know that this is for them and choose to act now. So it's 10,000 paid in full or 2,000 per month. So the first 2 months leading up until the February 1st start date, the deposit must be paid before then. And then as you go through the 12-week program, the remainder must be completed before your graduation. So 2,000 per month, all completed by the time that you graduate within the 12-week Divine Quest period. And there will be a graduation ceremony. You start off with your cohort, and you move through this journey of transformation and inner alchemy, if you will, together. You go through this whole initiation and experience. And you're an alumni for life, okay? You're just part of the Serefair Conservatory. So I presented to you everything this Divine Quest is. And there's nothing else to say but begin your Divine Quest. Become who you already are within. Chip away at the blocks that are not that and allow through the pieces that are. And slowly but surely, or as quickly and as steadily as you can build your own wealth pillars and get that inflection in the identity shift, you will uncover the masterpiece of your life and who you really are here meant to be for. What you are really meant to be here for. Because as I briefly alluded to just now, everyone who enters the conservatory and goes through this program is a visionary, is a creator, is a founder, an innovator, a world shaper. In what capacity? I don't know yet. I don't know. But I look forward to see who you actually become as the result. It might not be a year from now. It might not be 2 years from now. It might not be 5 years. It might be 10 years from now. Who you become in its fullest expression, I am so excited and so looking forward to that time when I see who each of you really are in your fullest expression. The masterpiece that comes through when all that is not you is moved away so that who you really are can come to fruition and alignment. So get in for the Divine Quest. Be one of the first founding members of the Serefair Conservatory. Being one of the first members, one of the first 100 students to enroll and go through a program. This is only the start. This is the very, very early beginning stages. And the first cohort moves February 1st. 2 ways you can do this is sending me a DM on Instagram or reserving your place now through a deposit, whether that's a pay in full or the 2,000 per month until completion of the course is when the final payment must be completed. And from then on, it's just that one-time fee. You are locked in for a year of mentorship following the 12 weeks intensive of the Divine Quest. And you are essentially an alumni for life. You will forever be whatever cohort you join in the first term in February 1st or a later term. This will be an ongoing thing. you will forever be an alumni of the Serefair Conservatory. So you can choose to enter now. And the first cohort starts February 1st, 2026. So I'll see you there.